आप लोग आए कहाँ से हो, आपने आपकी क्या जर्नी रही है, हाउ डिड यू रीच हियर, हाउ डिड यू डिसाइड टू स्टार्ट this business as well? So go with that lens. Nikhil, coming on to you.
Sure. So I feel a bit of a outsider to the bond markets. My journey, at least in bonds, has been much shorter. But let me give the full background. So I also wanted to get into finance.
Money or
I think money was definitely a factor, right? And you also, at least when I was in college, startups weren't a thing. Okay, most of the people who went to
when did you
MBA
graduate, Nikhil?
I graduated in 2009
Okay.
from MBA and FMS, and when we graduated, finance was the thing to do. Startups are now replacing going to finance or consulting, but in my time, everyone wanted to get into finance. So I started a career with HSBC, and then spent a majority of my career in banking with Morgan Stanley.
In Mumbai or
In Mumbai.
In Mumbai. Okay.
So I think all of us must have landed up in Mumbai at some point of time for our careers. There's no option if you're in finance. So this was 6 years working for Morgan Stanley's investment banking team. Investment banking is advising companies to raise capital or to do mergers and acquisitions.
Similar to what sort of?
Similar, maybe just a difference in the sector.
Okay,
More
sure.
Infrastructure. This was more broad-based. I was a lot of my focus was on the tech side.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a deal?
Sure. So there's an IT services company called Hexaware.
Okay. Hexaware Technologies. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hexaware's promoter was looking to sell his stake in the business. They had a private equity firm, a large institutional investor who was looking to sell. So we advised them on the sale of stake to another fund. So that is an example of an investment banking transaction that we did. But those are the days that we started saying Make My Trip go public. So Morgan Stanley was the investment banker for Make My Trip's US IPO. So that's the phase in which I was doing my banking career. I spent 6 years there, and I had not much exposure to bonds. We used to represent Jaguar Land Rover to raise bonds in London in the high yield market. But other than that, my exposure was more equity and M&A. I wanted to get into startups. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. And
Why?
Why? Because I think entrepreneurship was a bug. It's something that I don't think anyone in my family has ever been an entrepreneur or done business. Everyone's been in services, most people in finance. But it was just a kida ki karna hai. After 6 years in a bank, you have a little bit of saving. You're still young enough to take risks. From a life point of view, it seemed like the right time to make that jump. So I met two amazing individuals, Mohit and Vinayak, who had a concept of making public transportation around buses simple.
Okay.
So completely tangentially opposite to investment banking, but I quit my job and joined them as a co-founder, and this company is today called Chalo. Our idea was that majority of people in India actually will take a bus to work, bus to school, bus to home in a city. If you're in Bombay, best. If you're in Delhi, DTC, Calcutta, CSTC, Chennai, MTC, right? But the journey of taking that bus is horribly painful. You don't even know when it will arrive, right? And in 2016, we had all gotten comfortable with the idea of Uber and Ola arriving at our doorstep, convenience. Why couldn't we deliver it to the 300 million Indians who take a bus to work, right? And so that was the business that we started. And I remember the first thing we did was no one would give us permissions to put GPS inside the bus. So we went and hired conductors, and we used to pay them extra money to activate the GPS on their mobile phones and use it to track the bus and then provide real-time information. So that's how Chalo started. It is today one of the largest mobility startups in India. They facilitate about 1 billion passenger rides across the country and also does ticketing. So if you're watching this in Bombay, you go in a best bus, you're buying a ticket from Chalo. So I spent 4 years doing that. Then interestingly got a chance to move to the World Bank as a policy consultant for transportation. As you can see, now you can understand why I think of an outsider. But I think Chalo gave me a perspective, for the first time, gave me a B2C problem to solve. See, investment banking is a very B2B problem to
What's
solve.
B2C?
Business to consumer. Right?
Okay.
The retail consumer, the person standing at a bus stop, thinking about how to take a bus, what should his app look like, how should his features be, how does convenience be for him, that was the first B2C problem to solve. And then I went back to a B2B setup like World Bank, where we were trying to advise the government on how to improve speed of public transportation, adoption of public transportation. About 2.5 years later, the Kida for entrepreneurship came again, and that's when Grip started.
Thank you, Nikhil.